A white student union has formed in Illinois to fight back against Black Lives Matter. Addicting Info reports, the group posted a call to action for people to send in photos of people who are involved in the Black Lives Matter movement on campus in order to know who the anti-whites are. They also refer to Black Lives Matter as a terrorist organization in their original page description. So first they put it up, and it said Illinois White Student Union, and that was taken down. Then they put up, I think, just Illinois White Student Union. And they wrote a post featuring a clip from the movie American History X, where Edward Norton says, "It's a bunch of people grabbing any excuse they can find to go and loot a store. Nothing more. Lincoln freed the slaves, what, like 130 years ago? How long does it take you to get your act together?" And the clip was titled, "Relevant to All Ferguson News." Now, they do, the classic new white supremacist thing, which is you gotta say, no, we're not really white supremacists, we're just, we are white student union who stand up for white civil rights and stuff. You guys buying this? So they're doing that trick, but then all over the page there were like hints of what's actually going on here. So let me show you a graphic from the page. All right, this says, "How to identify a racist?" And there's a picture that says, "I'm proud to be a strong black woman, not racist. I'm proud to be a Japanese American, not racist. I'm proud to be Native American, not racist. I'm proud to be Mexican, not racist. I'm proud to be Arabic, not racist." And then it says, "I'm proud to be white, racist." And so obviously they're mocking the idea like, well, if everybody else can be proud of their heritage, why can't we be proud of our heritage? I'll tell you why. Because not everything is already equal. If things were already equal across the board, well, then nobody would have a problem with, white people saying, "White pride!" But historically, what has that been linked to? Historically, it's been tied to the KKK. Historically, it's been tied to neo-Nazi groups. Now, you can pretend like that's not the case, but you're pretending, because that's not true. In fact, it has been tied to those groups. So, number one, historically, it's just different. When you talk black pride, it was to fight against systemic oppression. When you talk white pride, it was to dominate and segregate, and it was tied to hate and oftentimes terrorism. So historically, it's just not true. But furthermore, when you're already the dominant power force and power structure in America, and you start screaming that we need more rights, we need to fight back against the people trying to tear us down, that doesn't end well. So we've seen that before. Whether it was in Germany or there's the Germanic people, we need to fight for our rights, the Aryan race, we need to fight for that. I always use this example because it parallels perfectly. If you have in Turkey, for example, people marching in the streets calling for Turkish pride, what's historically tied to that? Oh, I don't know. Why don't you ask the Armenians? Okay, it was tied to genocide. That's what it was tied to. When the dominant force gets hyper-nationalistic and into their own identity, that means exclusion for everybody else because they're the dominant force. But on the flip side, if you see a protest for the rights of Kurds in Turkey, well, that's perfectly fine and perfectly normal because they are an oppressed minority in Turkey, so they're fighting against the oppression for equality. That's the difference. And by the way, this idea that, white people, they're just at a disadvantage because they're at a disadvantage. They can't ever, say they're proud of anything. Not true. If somebody says Irish pride, nobody says you're racist. Somebody says Italian pride, nobody says you're racist. As long as it's something that is not historically tied to overt racism and hate and bigotry and intolerance and terrorism, well, then everybody's fine with it. But that is tied historically to all those different things, and it is not, I repeat, it is not already equal. So, since that's the case, and there's still work to do on the racial equality front, for you to say, hey, we started a 100-yard dash, white people ran 80 yards out in front, and then turned around and said, hey, black people, catch up, and then you start screaming in their face, white pride, well, then you're just a cunt. Then you're just a prick. And finally, let me just say, guys, that's not to say that there aren't some times where people in the Black Lives Matter movement are wrong and go too far. Of course that happens. Of course that happens. I've seen it myself. I totally disagreed with the fucking pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon chant, which was violent rhetoric. I disagreed with, there's a video recently of them shouting down students in a library who are minding their business and studying and calling them, whatever, white curse words. I don't even know what words they use, or else I'd obviously say it. I curse all the time. But they were berating them in a library when they're studying. Okay, do I support that? No. In fact, I condemn that. I think it's horrible. I think it's stupid. I think it's terrible. But the overall point remains, where they may go too far at times, and they may be wrong sometimes, but the overall movement to fight oppression and to, end the drug war and to change policing so cops don't shoot to kill black people immediately, they're right on that. So the overall movement is correct to fight oppression, to fight injustice, whereas the white pride movement is the opposite. It's to perpetuate injustice, and it's to perpetuate oppression, and it's to further segregate and demonize and make the problem worse. That's the difference.